Strap in for the world's fastest half hour. You're on the Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And brought to you by Hercules Tires and Grunt Style Apparel. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Herbert and Marty Huff.
This is the Straight Line on drag racing. Thanks for stopping by our half hour of horsepower. Appreciate you being with us. As we head to Epping, New Hampshire this weekend, the pride of New England, Bob Tasca III will be here, as well as Top Fuel playoff hopeful Scott Palmer. We're in the beams and set to launch another edition of the Straight Line. Wherever you may be, coast to coast and around the world, this is the Straight Line on drag racing at MRN.com. Along with four-time IHRE Top Fuel champion and 10-time NHRA national event winner Doug Herbert, I am Marty Huff, coming off the 4th of July on a Wednesday and getting right back to it on a Thursday. Hope you had a safe and enjoyable 4th of July holiday, and now headed up to Epping, New Hampshire, where it's always a good time up in New Hampshire.
Well, it is. The weather's generally really good up there. The track conditions are basically sea level, and I've set the track record, held the track record there for years. It can be a really fast, great place to race. The crowds up there, the New England crowds love drag racing, so I got a feeling if the weather holds out for them, which it looks like it's probably going to be okay, it should be a great event. Yep,
and two of the guys that are right now on the bubble as far as points are concerned, Bob Tasca III and Scott Palmer, they are coming up in today's show and have an opportunity to talk points and heading down the stretch as it was here in the 2018 season before we get to Indianapolis. As a matter of fact, why don't we take a look at that right now? Top fuel points. Up top, really no surprises, but once you get down to about that 10th line, there's Scott Palmer, and right behind him is Richie Crampton, 1 point behind, so it's going to be really tight. That race for 9th, 10th, and 11th is going to be really interesting. Somebody's going to get left out because Mike Salinas is in 9th. Only 4 points back is Scott Palmer, and a point behind that is Richie Crampton. So, I mean, a round either way is going to be really interesting for those guys. The pressure's on for all three of those drivers.
Right. I mean, think about that. Richie Crampton, there's nothing that team is missing.
Yeah.
So for them to not be a top 10 team is a little bit surprising, but I'll tell you what, the way Scott Palmer's been coming on, the way Mike Salinas been coming on, they're legit. And so it's pretty neat to see those guys up there and fighting for a top 10 finish or, to be in the countdown. I mean, you never know. You get in the countdown, we saw Robert Height did it, came in, barely got into the countdown, and then ended up winning the championship. So it happens.
Yeah, Ellie Tonglet did the same thing many years ago, and bikes just barely squeaked by the skin of his teeth, and then ended up winning the championship at the end of the day. Let's take a look at the funny car points, and kind of the same thing. Bob Tasca III is right there on the cutoff line, but right behind him, Cruz Pedregon. Right behind him is Johnny Lindbergh, and right in front of Tasca is Sean Langdon. That's going to be a really interesting race down to the end. Sean Langdon, again, one of those Coletta teams that they don't want for anything. Cruz Pedregon, a guy that's been there, done that, won a couple of championships. Jim Head with Johnny Lindbergh's team, he really knows how to get a car down the track. So that's going to be really interesting. And let's not count out John Force on the outside right now. I mean, he's in, but he's only a couple of rounds back, and he's kind of struggled this year as well.
Well, we talked about it before. You can't ever count John Force out. There's no doubt about that.
No.
I mean, Cruz, number 11, and Johnny Lindbergh, number 12, those are, I'd say they're not in very good positions, to be honest with you. Cruz and these guys, especially Cruz, has a long-term commitment from Snap-on Tools, right? I've been in that same boat, and then all of a sudden you're not in the top 10. You're doing very poorly. And they're going, what are we doing? Why do we got this guy? So hopefully he's out doing a bunch of other work for him off the racetrack. That's important because, what it is on the racetrack they need is winning and not, DNQ and stuff like that. That makes everybody look bad.
Yeah, and there's been a little bit of everything out of the Cruz Pedregon camp this year. He's won here at the 4 wides back a couple months ago, but is also DNQ'd this year. So it's kind of an unpredictable season, a bit of an inconsistent start for Cruz and the guys, but Bob Tasca getting back out on the road with a full-time schedule for the first time in a couple of years. We'll have the opportunity to talk to Bob Tasca here in just a couple of minutes. Some really interesting things going on in Pro Stock as we take a look at the point standings right now heading into Epping. Tanner Gray right on top of everything, but the surprise is down at the bottom, and that's Jason Line. I'm not sure the last time Jason Line was this far down, or any KB car, as a matter of fact, that far down in the standings this late in the season. I'm not sure if Alex Laughlin is a threat right now to that spot, but it's possible. And look at Matt Hartford. He's a guy that's won a race this year. He won at Houston earlier this year and is 12th in points. So there's a lot of things going on there. But I think if you could take almost all 10 of those guys and throw them into a hat and pull one out and say, hey, this is your 2018 champion, and you wouldn't really be surprised.
Well, that's true. Jason Line being in 10th place, I hate to go out into a limb and just say, but you've got Greg Anderson's car has been pretty dominant, and then Jason's car not so much. I wouldn't be surprised if they're out there doing a little bit of testing.
Yeah.
They feel like, okay, we can hold on to a top 10 spot where we need to do some testing, we need to get some data, and then going into the countdown, they're going to change that around. Because those guys work too hard to be, have that much difference, I guess, between Greg's car and Jason's car. They normally run within thousandths of each other, and right now Jason's car's not really. I'm guessing they're testing something.
And also they've got Bo Butner out there who won a championship for KB last year, or at least running their equipment last year, and also Derek Kramer is out there running KB equipment as well. So they've got some test feelers out there as well. So, but my guess, knowing those guys, they're chess players. They're 4 or 5 moves down the road, and so I think they're looking at more Indianapolis on.
Right. That's what I had.
Yeah.
That would be my guess as well.
I would think so too. And let's take a quick look at bikes as we're heading up to New Hampshire this weekend for the New England Nationals. Not a whole lot of surprises there. On top, the Harley guys, Andrew Hines, Eddie Craywick, and then the other 2 teammates, Ellie Tonglet, Jerry Savoie, right there. And so not a lot going on there. Angie Smith right behind her husband. That's kind of an interesting deal. If Angie were to leapfrog Matt, I don't think Matt would have a whole lot of problem with that. No. But I think that would probably be kind of the surprise of the pits.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a big problem. I think one of the surprises would be Hector Arana being 10th in points and Steve Johnson not being in the top 10. Steve's bike's been running pretty well. I talked to Steve once in a while. We're good buddies. And, he had the situation where he was racing with Savoie Racing, and then something happened. I don't even got the full story on whatever happened, but they parted ways, and Steve went. And for anybody that's been to the races and seen Steve, he's got his little pickup truck and his little trailer, and he's hitting it, just like the old time. So it's kind of cool. Steve's a racer. He loves what he's doing. And
it won't be surprising if we find him in the playoff chase later on this season. Headed up to New England, and the pride of New England, Bob Tasca III, joins us next.
Things happen fast in racing, and if you don't know where to look, you can miss it all. With Legend from Racing Electronics, you'll never miss another moment. Legend gives you live fan vision video, in-car cameras, and stats at premier National Series events, and the next generation race scanner for unfiltered driver and crew audio at any motorsports event nationwide. Race fans have never been closer to the action. Welcome to the future of the fan experience. Learn more by visiting racingelectronics.com.
O'Reilly.
When it comes to safety, nothing is more important than your vehicle's brakes. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing or grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best and Brake Best Select at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brakes from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hi, this is Mike Bagley. Join me and the rest of the MRN crew every Tuesday night for NASCAR Live. We'll put a bow on the weekend's action and get you ready for the upcoming race with the biggest names in the sport.
As you look at that particular race, that's been one of our best races over the years, and I think every driver in the garage is looking forward to racing this particular package.
Hear exclusive interviews, expert analysis, as well as stuff you won't hear anywhere else.
Oh yeah, good job, guys. Good job.
It's NASCAR Live this Tuesday night at 7 Eastern on the Motor Racing Network.
Welcome back to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's more with Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Thanks for joining us on MRN.com today, and joining us on the Racing Electronics Hotline is the driver of the Motorcraft Quick Lane Ford Funny Car. Bob Tasca III joins us. Bob, thanks for joining us. I know you are really busy this weekend, so we appreciate you slicing out a couple of minutes to join us here on the Straight Line. Thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Great to be on the phone with you guys.
Hey, getting ready for the race, Bob. It's a regular hometown deal, and you've got all your buddies calling you. Hey, Bob, can you give me some tickets? Can you help me out? I need to come to the races. I want to be there and support you, and all that kind of stuff.
Doug, when I get to the track, I got a 8.5 by 11 filled with names and numbers of tickets. It's going to take me, I think, 2 hours just to put them in envelopes.
Oh, no. Well, that's better than not having any friends, though. That's for sure.
True.
You're going to have a big cheering section up there. Hey, Bob, the car's been running well. The car's coming right around, and then I hear you've got a new deal with a new Ford body coming along. Tell us about some of the things you've been doing to really make headway on the program and be in the contending position where you are.
Well, hey, listen, we've been working real hard. Most people don't realize we had 6 weeks from the time Ford said, let's go, to the time we had to be at Pomona. So it's really been a Herculean effort, just hiring the guys, getting the team working together, getting all the new parts through the system, and, going through some growing pains. I mean, that's really been the bottom line earlier in the season. When you look at the last 6 races, other than our first round losses in Richmond and last weekend in Norwalk, which was a mechanical failure, this car's semifinals, finals, quarterfinals. I mean, we've really, really performed very, very well. And, for a new team that has high expectations, we're exactly where we need to be at this point in the season. We're in the top 10. We got good momentum. We got a lot of, consistent runs under our belt. And we're definitely focused on moving up the ladder here in Epping.
As you mentioned, Bob, Ford came to you late in the game, I guess, for 2018 and said, all right, let's do this. You're a Ford guy, have been all your life, obviously. How did you get Ford back on board?
Well, hey, listen, it came down to a point, guys, where I'd lay in bed at night with my wife, and I said to her, I said, they either got to do one of two things. They either got to say yes, because the text messages, the phone calls, the board meetings, the repeated times that I went to Detroit, I said, or they got to file a restraining order against me and prevent me from coming back into Dearborn. I said, that was really the only two choices they had. And my wife, I'll never forget, one night she looked at me, she goes, I think they're going to file a restraining order against you. I said, well, that's not what I want to hear right now. But no, I was persistent. And for, a large part, in fact, the Ford fans. I mean, I can't tell you the emails, the social media posts. I mean, sometimes I thought they knew more than I did because they just wanted us back so bad with Ford. And, fortunately, Ford was able to look at the big picture, and that's the growth of the sport, the Fox TV package, the social media, and it got them excited enough to where they said, okay, let's do it. But it came with a lot. It came with a lot from them and for us. One, we had to represent, what their vision is, and that's to go out there and compete for a championship. And two, they got to put a lot of engineering behind the state-of-the-art Mustang body, which we are. We finally finished the design last week, and they're going to final approval with NHRA now. And, Doug, when you see this thing, this is going to be the slipperiest funny car to ever go down a racetrack.
Wow, that is cool. Well, that's what's neat is that all the engineering behind Ford obviously did a lot to help John Force Racing for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And if you can pick up on that momentum, man, that can't do anything but really help, help make your program that championship contender that you want to be.
Well, and and a lot of people didn't realize this. So, well, you can go out and get a sponsor and you can run a Ford. I said, no. I said, the truth be told, if I got a sponsor from a brand X, without Ford's commitment and engineering support, I can't run a Ford. I said, people don't realize the amount of support we get from the manufacturer, and I know the resources that Ford has. I mean, they got some of the brightest engineering racing minds on the planet. So to have them on board and fully committed with Ford Performance, it's a dream come true for me, and I'm proud and humbled to represent all those Ford fans out there, and we just want to give them somebody to cheer for.
Speaking of getting support, you're also getting most of your parts and pieces from Don Schumacher Racing. Talk about the relationship between you and DSR and how that's helping you along.
Well, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Don Schumacher, and a lot of people don't realize just how unbelievably helpful and supportive this guy is, not just to Bob Tasca, but to a lot of teams. He's probably the least selfish person I've ever met in racing. I mean, his door's open, his technology's open. I mean, obviously we have some proprietary stuff that we're doing with his machine shop for Ford that's more specific to us. But at the end of the day, without his support behind our team, there is no way we compete for a championship. I mean, it takes so much to compete with these multi-car teams that as a single-car team, if you're completely on your own, you got almost an impossible task. But with his support behind us, we can contend with the best of them out there.
Bob, tell us about your crew chief, Eric Lane, and how you guys have been moving along and continuing to build on this momentum that you've had with semis and just knocking rounds out.
Yeah, speaking of DSR.
That's a great question. It's a funny story. I had the opportunity of working with Eric for the last couple of seasons part-time with Don Schumacher's permission. And then when I got my full-time deal, Don and I had many, many conversations, and there was many, many names mentioned. And we can get him, and you can get that one, and we can do that. And at the end of all his conversations, I'd always end with, but Don, I really like Eric. Well, I like Eric. He's an up-and-comer, but, he hasn't done it on his own yet. And, after about like our sixth phone call, and my sixth time, I would say to Don, I really like to work with Eric. And he finally said to me, he says, well, I get it. You want to work with Eric? I said, yeah, I really want to work with Eric. And I tell you one thing, I'm absolutely thrilled. I think that he is a true superstar in the sport. He's got an unbelievable pedigree, Doug, as you know, under Jimmy Prock and also under Ron Tobler. He is my pick. I have absolutely no regrets. I truly believe that he is the best is yet to come with Eric, and he has a very different philosophy than anyone I've ever worked with on how to tune the car, and you're starting to see it come out with how consistent the car runs. And I just can't wait. Every time I get in the car and I see him walking away, I believe that I'm going to hit the throttle and that thing's going to go to the lights.
And confidence is everything. Speaking of confidence, being at home has got to give you a whole lot of confidence. Do you feel like you've got a bit of a home track advantage being basically at your home track in Epping? And just tell us about the fans up there and how ravenously they enjoy drag racing.
Well, it's unbelievable. I mean, you walk into this track and it's standing room only. I mean, they're sitting up on the grass hill. They're 5 or 6 deep at the fences. It's the only place in the country that no one tells me that I talk funny, which is a wonderful feeling. But no, the New England fans are absolutely spectacular. I mean, this place is home to me. It's the first track I ever went down in a stock, basically just a souped-up Mustang, 1992 Mustang. When I was 16 years old, I went down the right lane. I'll never forget it, with a pair of slicks on it and how the car felt. So to be back here many years later in a nitro funny car representing, Ford Motor Company. This weekend I'll be running the PPG as the primary sponsor on the car, and all the home fans. It's awesome.
Well, Bob Tasca, good job getting that momentum going on that Ford team. And good luck this weekend up there at your hometown track in Epping. We look forward to talking to you after you get back to the winner's circle here again real soon.
Can't wait, guys. Thank you so much. Be on anytime.
Driver of the Motorcraft Quick Lane Ford Funny Car. That is Bob Tasca joining us here on MRN.com and the Straight Line. Hey, want to tell you about this right here. It is the Ridge, and it's the last wallet you'll ever buy. It comes in titanium, carbon fiber, aluminum, polycarbonate, a bunch of different styles and colors. Get 10% off with free shipping worldwide. Go by ridgewallet.com. That's ridgewallet.com and use the promo code RACING. Ditch your bulky wallet today and get the Ridge at ridgewallet.com. Big thanks to Bob Tasca for joining us. And right around the corner, we'll talk Top Fuel with Scott Palmer coming up.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there. Whether you're running on dirt or running a job, our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
O'Reilly.
If your AC is blowing hot air, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help. Get immediate relief with Interdynamics R134A refrigerant for $9.99. AC recharging is fast and easy with Interdynamics R134A refrigerant at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
All the dirt, winged excitement, and closest racing in America is featured each week on MRN's Winged Nation. Steve Post and our team of dirt racing experts bring you a trackside perspective on the heroes and personalities of sprint car racing. From Pennsylvania to California, the Midwest, Florida, and of course, Knoxville. Tune in to MRN's Winged Nation, presented by Sage Fruit, each Saturday on MAV TV, and MRN's Winged Nation, presented by Hercules Tires, live Tuesdays at noon Eastern and on demand at MRN.com.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, back to Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Glad you're joining us on MRN.com here on a Tuesday afternoon as we're getting ready for the NHRA New England Nationals. Bob talked about Bob Tasca III, who just joined us, and talked about a new body coming out for Ford. A couple weeks ago, we had the opportunity to talk to Matt Hagan, and he was talking about the new Dodge body that's going to be debuted probably around Denver, around the Mopar Mile High Nationals. That's kind of how they do things. But I think everybody took a look at what they did to Courtney Force's car and the success that they're having right now, and everybody backed up and said, "Okay, well, hang on here. We need a new car." And I think now that we're getting about midway through the season, a little bit past that, here come the new cars.
I mean, and then the same thing. I mean, you got Brian Karate. They've made a lot of changes over there on
no question,
on Courtney Force's car, but. Yeah, I think that body, as Matt Hagan was saying to us last week on the show, it's got some sort of a teardrop in by where the header flames come out. Everybody remembers, all the fans would remember last year, or the year before, whenever they rolled the headers back, laid them back and used the headers for thrust to get the cars going better. And the funny cars started running really, really well. I think Beckman was probably the first to really, I think Cruz kind of had them, but they weren't. It wasn't really knocking everybody dead.
Yeah.
And then when Jimmy Prock got him with Jack Beckman, then they really went on a rampage, and that kind of got everybody's eyes open, like, uh-oh, we got to do something. Well, now they've adapted the body shape to make the headers more effective and also add to aerodynamics. So I think that is the big thing now. So Chevrolet's got their body, Dodge has their body. Bob Tasca was just talking to us about the Ford body. So I think everything is getting more streamlined, more aerodynamic, working together with the other parts on the cars, like the headers and the the air intake injectors, the scoop basically on the top of the hood. All these different things, making the cars more faster.
Yeah, and it seems to me that now we're getting down to we got one more race until we hit the Western Swing, and then right after that, then it's Brainerd and Indy. Is this kind of a risky time to be adding a new car that hasn't been really tried and tested just before we get to the playoffs?
No, I mean, I think before they come out with these new cars, there is hundreds of hours of wind tunnel testing, and it's like my land speed car that we've been working on for the past few years. All the wind tunnel testing can be done in a computer. You can do all these different kind of variables in the computer before you even build the body, before you even put the actual car in the wind tunnel. You can get all the problems worked out. So I'm guessing all these new bodies, there's not going to be a bunch of problems that crop up that they just didn't know about because they've already done an incredible amount of testing. And like Bob was saying, the people at Ford and the same as the people at General Motors, Chevrolet, and Dodge or FCA, they already know what they're doing. And they've done plenty of wind tunnel testing to make sure that shape of that body is going to be it's going to be this much better at this point. It's going to be this much better at this point on the track at this speed. I mean, they've got it down. It's not a guessing game anymore, like the old days. Let's see, we can bolt this little 1/4-inch piece of aluminum on the back. That'll help. Okay, those days are gone. I mean, I like those days because it was just, hey, I think this will work, and you bolt it on. Now, there's so much technology that it can be tested and proven really in a computer before you even do it.
Right, because you were a guy that wanted to innovate and see what you could do with the car before anything actually happened. But I mean, that just doesn't happen much. I mean, every once in a while you get in a pinch. You may roll something up and let's go for it. Yeah, exactly. But to actually make a debut with a car and take it out to a national event, there's a lot of money that goes into that. I mean, that wind tunnel testing isn't cheap.
Oh no.
And all the man hours and all the labor that is put into those deals.
Well, and it's modeling. It's electronic modeling, basically CAD modeling, and then they do the wind tunnel simulation in the computer. So it's incredible. The technology is really, really incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And just a reminder that all of our guests here on the Straight Line come to you via the Racing Electronics Hotline. For 3 decades, Racing Electronics has been the #1 choice for race scanners, headsets, and the popular Fan Vision handheld unit. Racing Electronics provides the ultimate fan experience for drag racing fans. Stop by our trackside location or visit racingelectronics.com for more information. Speaking of more of the Straight Line coming up after this.
O'Reilly.
Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, pick up 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil for $28.95. Plus, earn double O Rewards points. Protect your engine from sludge and wear and increase performance with Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Here's a special message for those of you who owe the IRS at least $10,000 or more in back taxes. The IRS has special programs in place that could eliminate or reduce your tax debt by thousands of dollars. Call the Federal Tax Management Helpline that has been set up for you, 800-242-1706. Stop the wage garnishments, levies, and tax liens now. Once you've qualified and enrolled, the IRS will stop all the collection activities against you. These unique programs have been allocated to help the economy and significantly reduce or eliminate your tax burden. The IRS is currently accepting reduced settlements and other favorable programs. You may qualify for substantial savings, so get the help you need. If you owe more than $10,000 in taxes, call for free information and to see if you qualify. Take down the number now for the Federal Tax Management Hotline, 800-242-1706. That's 800-242-1706. 800-242-1706.
You're staged and ready for another run on the Straight Line. Brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's Doug and Marty.
Yes, I will agree with that. Big thanks to O'Reilly Auto Parts for bringing you the Straight Line here on MRN.com. Speaking of which, this is the segment of the program where we talk about red light, green light, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. The green light, well, the red light is right now, as we speak, in Epping. there are heat wave warnings in New England. It is hot in New England. The good news, the green light here, is that it's going to cool down tomorrow, and by the weekend we're talking about high 70s, low 80s. Really acceptable, especially here in July, to get down a racetrack, and that means that we could see really good conditions for racing.
Probably will, and the fans up there will be out there no matter what.
Well, yeah,
rain, sleet,
doubt
snow.
about that.
I mean, they're pretty tough fans up there, but having some good weather will just be great for everybody. Hopefully, keep the racing on schedule so that everybody, the guys that work on the teams can go out and enjoy. Getting a lobster roll and stuff that you do up there in New England that you don't get to do at a lot of other tracks. So looking forward to seeing how the races go, and everybody's getting geared up for the big West Coast swing. So then it's going to be out there, go to Denver, change everything, get ready for Denver, and then, Sonoma.
And then change everything back.
Yeah, so they're coming down, really getting ready for Indy.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Plus you. And how much can we take from both ends of from the northeast to the northwest? When you're talking about Epping, there's a bunch of trees, just about sea level. You go to Seattle, kind of the same thing. Or can we kind of compare the two?
I would say it's similar. Yeah, I would say it's definitely similar. The seafood's different, and stuff like that.
There's no question about that.
Yeah, the tracks are even kind of similar. I mean, those are older tracks. New England Dragway is an old track. That's not a surprise to anyone.
Right.
The old Seattle SIR, and I don't even know what they call it now.
Pacific Raceways.
It's an older track, but they've got some personality. Yeah. Hopefully, the personality is good. Sometimes the personality ends up being bumps in the racetrack, which is not good. But the track owners, I think, realize nowadays that, hey, they've got to have the tracks in great condition because that's what makes the racing good. And the racing good is what gets the fans excited and makes them come back next year. So you can't just not pay attention to the racetrack and what's going on in the pits. Like you go over here to ZMAX Dragway, which is a quarter mile or a half mile away from our studio here, the Amaran studio. It's great. They think about everything for the fans. That makes the fans come back. That's why the crowds are sold out every year.
And hopefully you'll come back next week, as well as we will talk to winners of the New England Nationals up at Epping. So for Doug, I am Marty. We will talk to you next week on MRN.com here on The Straight Line.